Hi and welcome. It's your favorite apple soda enthusiast, me, Leanne. I'm here with an overthinker's version of fun, a video essay. I hate to beat around the bush, but I must tell y'all the story of my fountain pen first. I was a child, probably still in possession of many of my baby teeth. On Sundays, my parents would take me to Borders, a beloved, now defunct bookstore after Chinese school lessons. I would make a beeline to the stationery section. On one of the display shelves, there was always a metal holder that held a bouquet of fountain pens. They were specifically $5, and I begged my father to purchase one for me week after week. I'm unsure at the reluctance to buy me such a utensil, but I remember with chagrin this betrayal upon my young soul. Anyway, in the end, my dad did buy me a tin pencil case with colorful cats and a matching gel pen set, which was more fitting for a fourth grader or whatever I was, but I never did forget about the fountain pen. Fast forward, past many elections and economic downturns, I'm in Taiwan in the summer of 2024. I'm standing in a small stationery shop where I've lingered too long, poring over each item with care. The small space is packed with notebooks, film cameras, and washi tapes as far as the eye can see. I spot a Pilot Kakuno fountain pen. My vision tunnels, bills are exchanged. I become the proud owner of my very first fountain pen. This is redemption. So, what is an amateur? When I think about it, an amateur is the opposite of a coward, right? An amateur is someone who throws themselves into newness. There is no hiding behind professionalism as a beginner, yet there is a rather negative connotation that is attached to the word amateur. It's like, oh, you're not there yet. You're not established. You're not good enough. The dictionary even defines an amateur as a person who is incompetent or inept at a certain activity. However, I'm here to argue that to be an amateur is to be human. There's a relatability there. Being an amateur is not a phase to be loathed, it's a stage to be enjoyed. Today is my debut as a fountain pen amateur, so I'm here as a beginner too. This is just like how Loona read. Moving on, let's talk about the cow horn. If left to grow untouched, a cow's horn can continue spiraling into a single point. Maybe this isn't as adept of a metaphor as I had envisioned, but that's how humans are. We begin our lives with the whole world as our oyster. We find something we like and we continue to hone it. It becomes a singularity. Like the horn, our lives curl inward. An interest becomes the career path, the Olympians soaring through their event, the idols debuting on their stages. The thing we are, our identity, is tied up in what we do. However, it just means our focus gets narrower and smaller. While we level up in this one specific thing, everything else falls by the wayside. Society is all too happy to encourage a budding jack of all trades, master of none, until a certain age. Children are free to try without judgment, usually. Their lack of experience is not really held against them, and experimenting is expected. As adults, even teenagers, I'd argue, trying something new becomes a fierce line of questioning. How is this going to help you in school, in university, at your future job? How will this financially support you? And the worst starter of all, aren't you too old to be... Now, maybe I'm living with a rosy haze over my eyes because I'm 23, not in my 30s, my 40s, whatever, so take everything I say with a pinch of salt. But this kind of discouragement is ingrained into us as soon as we become semi-conscious beings with the capability of contributing something to the capitalistic machine. There's also a sunk cost fallacy at play here. Because time and effort are invested into developing a skill, the mindset that follows is that giving up or starting something else is not an option, at least not a smart one, because that's starting from zero, becoming an amateur, which is not something a well-adjusted adult should be, right? So, I totally understand why the line of questioning happens. Let's put a pin in all that for a minute. Maybe it's the Sagittarius in me, but I've always loved hopping around to find that new beginning. Capital N, capital B, new. Not in a wasteful way, but I love to style my clothes in new ways, find new food to try, travel, and most of all, dabble in skills I've never tried before. What propels me is the unknown. The problem is attachment, isn't it always? Not to get all personal or anything, but everything is fun and low stakes until it's suddenly not. One day you're a beginner on the sewing machine. The next minute it's 4 a.m. on your third all-nighter of the week and you're crying into $26 a yard silk chiffon, having to sew a clothing collection from design to runway. One day you're uploading videos for fun, the next you're beating yourself up for not posting this week, or the next week, or taking too long to upload, for getting a less than stellar comment from an anonymous keyboard warrior, losing sight of that beginner's shine that got you into this predicament in the first place. Like, good luck with all that. Speaking of luck, beginner's luck is, well, luckiness combined with an open mind, a growth mindset. So why do we chalk things up to beginner's luck when it's actually the freedom of opportunity? As our cynicism veiled as quote-unquote reality blooms, our growth mindset solidifies like concrete. Kids, on the other hand, well, nobody has told them they're not good enough yet. Remember those people asking, how's this going to benefit your future? To a new hobby you decided to pick up? To you wanting to go back to school? To you throwing a wrench into societal expectations of progress? Quote unquote, normal progress? What they really mean is, how are you going to make a living off of that? The line of questioning usually comes in the a little less amateur, more or less dedicated, the in progress stage. Because here is the nebulous phase of pursuit where you're thinking, oh, I'm not really a beginner anymore. Maybe I'm not a professional. Like, I'm not going to the World Crochet Championships with this, but now it's gotta be good in order to justify continuing. Can't we do anything just for the sake of trying anymore? And also, what people see as good or expected is usually what brings the paycheck in. That's a way to measure success. So, keep crocheting those cat beanies, girl. You need to set up an Etsy shop yesterday to make this whole hobby thing worthwhile. Maybe this is just my experience as a creative, but if I showed any kind of promise in a field, whether that was piano playing or fashion design, then the pressure was on. Once you know what works, you've been boxed in. For me, the boxed in feeling wasn't just born of my own expectations, but professors or other students who saw that raw talent type thing in me. The other options that existed for me started dwindling because we are always forced to choose, right? What's your favorite subject leads into what's your major, leads into what are you going to do for the rest of your life. Surely you're not going to play around with your time. Don't you want dental insurance and a 401k as soon as possible? When I was a kid, rock climbing wasn't scary at all. Ignorance is bliss. I just love the experience and opportunity to try anything and everything. I was recently harnessed on a rock wall again, and I was nervous. Sky wasn't the limit. I kept climbing higher and higher, and the floor was so far away, and my arm strength is mid at best. If I fell, I could crack my skull open, and then someone getting paid $14.35 an hour would have to wipe up my brain. Well, let's not get too graphic. But you see, the fear creeps into our lives as we get older. The more we know, the more scared we become. I've often thought, if I'm not good at this, why am I doing it? I don't want to let that get in the way of doing all it is I want to do in my life. Instead of opportunities for succeeding cropping up in our minds, all we see are more chances for failure, for regret. This happens in relationships too. People cling onto their partners of many years despite their misgivings because the alternative is the scary unknown, the starting over, the becoming an amateur again. But not all hope is lost. One of my favorite movies, Whisper of the Heart, depicts the creative process extremely well. The protagonist, Shizuku, is a young student who has always been lauded by her classmates as a great writer. She takes this praise and runs with it, writing a corny set of lyrics for class graduation and reading in her free time. Then, after a chance encounter, inspiration strikes, and she decides to test her mettle by giving herself a passion project, to write a story of her own. It's a classic plot for a creative. We see it in movies like Whiplash, Black Swan, Legally Blonde. The appearance of an initial spark that ignites a fire to accomplish something. Anything. Something big. So, spoiler alert, Shizuku finishes penning her book. However, there's a line she utters through her tears as she talks with the first reader of her novel. She specifically says, "There's so much I don't know." It's heartbreaking because she went into this pursuit with wide eyes and dedication, pouring in so much work just to ultimately feel let down. Even though she's not a professional, the disappointment of knowing more about what perfection could look like is discouraging. The freedom of creation is in the "there's so much I don't know" section because someone who doesn't know about the rules can do anything, can fly. I don't know anything, so I'm open to anything is a sponge-type mindset that drives us to find out just what we can do. Success not only depends on how much work you put in, but also the amount of belief you have in yourself. In Whisper of the Heart, the beginning stage of writing something was compared to a raw, unpolished gem hidden inside an unassuming rock ore. That's purity in its rawest form, right? We have to work hard at chipping away the excess to get to the gem inside. That's the process, and that's growing up as well. There's a chance, though, that the gem inside could yield very little. There's always that chance that there's nothing inside. And the shame attached with failing, that's what keeps us in our lanes, what keeps us stagnating. Sometimes not trying seems like the safer option. Woo, dejecting stuff, huh? For me, being an amateur has always been powerful. I'll be at my least skilled, but my most imaginative. Whether that was in ceramics, glass bead making, or roller skating, I jumped in with the excitement of a kid. It's harder to do that as an adult, but that's an essence of human nature that needs to be taken care of, don't you think? It's not always just about getting better, getting good, getting gold. Not for everything and not for everyone. Of course, we set limits on ourselves based on past experiences of falling and getting hurt, but it's never too late to try anything. I'm not saying you have to quit your day job, and I'm obviously not saying that we can survive on sunlight and hope alone. Hello, capitalism mention. But there is no shame in following the feelings that lead to your dreams, and no shame in picking up new dreams either. And to prove the power of beginnings, here's the first spread I've completed with my new fountain pen. Cool, right? Take this as a piece of encouragement.